Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Mike here, Way of Life Outdoor Survival. Y'all, it's a little windy day on this spot. I'm up here on just like a little hill crest, but I hope it don't interfere too much with the microphone. Alright y'all, The Alone Show, Season 5, Episode 7. And y'all, this time the little quote up there says, "Redemption can be found in hell if that's where you happen to be." To me, what that means is more or less, you can get through anything if you're determined enough. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, um, you can push through if you're mentally strong enough and determined enough. Um, all right, y'all. I'm gonna put my glasses on. I got some notes here. I didn't get to watch this episode. Usually, I watch episode about 3 times before I ever take notes, anything on it. That way, I get the full aspect. But this time, y'all, I had to take notes. I've only watched this episode one time. Busy schedule. But starts out day 29 with 5 people left, y'all. All right. We start out with Dave. All right. First thing we see Dave has harvested a grouse, and I think he says as he's looking, he has wounded this grouse before, and but I mean, you know, Dave's still having a real hard time, feeling bad about killing stuff, and he's remembering this water bird that he shot a few days ago, and he's really feeling bad, about hurting animals and stuff. But like I said before, y'all, that's just part of it. If you're gonna survive, you're gonna have to have meat. I mean, uh, all this Dave thinking about all this stuff, y'all. It's got him considering different hunting techniques, and so Dave decides to make an atlatl. Most of you probably know what an atlatl is. For those that you don't, that don't know, it's I guess kind of a primitive spear throwing um, mechanism. I guess it's like a handle and launches the spear. I guess a launcher, and they say it can help you throw like a human being can throw a spear with that launcher up to 100 miles an hour. I mean that's moving for a spear, and y'all, it's a spear kind of in between a arrow and a spear, I guess you call it. Um, Dave gets out there and he's practicing with it. Seems like he's doing good, and y'all, seems like he's a little more confident about it. Seems like he's like a confidence booster, more confident about hunting and harvesting animals. I think he thinks the way he talks. I think he believes that like a larger animal like that, he'll actually be able to harvest it um, more humane, I guess you call it, than you would with a bow. Like he shot that water bird with a bow and it got away from him. Make sure this microphone. Yeah, I think we're on. And I feel like that kind of give Dave a little confidence boost, a little more confident about going out and hunting, and that could, confidence can mean a lot when you're out there trying to harvest an animal. I mean, it could mean the difference between success and failure. I mean, the more confident you are about your equipment and what you're using and what you're doing, the better off you're going to be. Uh, Next, y'all, we go to Randy, and Randy's talking about, I think it's elk. I think he said some kind of deer, but I think it's actually elk bugling in the background, and that's like the mating call. And he's kind of making fun and poking around about the sounds and stuff. But Randy says he can feel his lack of calories. He can feel it weighing on him, and lack of intake of calories. And he knows he's going to have to find some kind of long-term food source. And that's going to be a big key, y'all. We talked about that before. Long term, I mean, you got to think about a lot of different aspects when you talk about long term compared to just a survival situation or a short scenario, And Randy says that he's finding ways to live out there, um, different ways, and stuff's kind of been working for him. But he says not having food is making everything more difficult. And that's true, y'all, I'm sure. You get hungry, you get where you can't think right. It slows your thought process down. Not thinking clearly, hard to make decisions. And it also has an effect on how you're feeling. You know, I mean, if you're happy and full, fat bellied, then you're gonna feel better than you would if you're out here hungry. You know, feel like you're starving and weak. And you know, so Randy's actually fishing, and he's out there trying to harvest food for now and for later on, and trying to preserve food. So uh, first couple fish, Randy loses, grabbing the line, pulling them in. And then he starts catching fish, y'all. I mean, one after another, one after another. I think he catches like 9 fish, and that day he catches 9 fish. He says that 2 are going to be for breakfast, 2 for dinner, and 5 of them he's going to smoke to preserve for later. You know, we talked about before, cold smoking preserves the fish for up to 7 days. So that's a good idea. I agree with that. Then next, y'all, we go to Larry. Larry's hearing sounds outside. It's dark outside, and nighttime, and Larry's hearing sounds outside. Kind of scary, he says it's kind of scary, that kind of sound, not knowing what it is. Uh, right now, he says he's wishing that he had put a door on his shelter, put a shelter door on. And, I agree with that. The more safe you feel inside your shelter, the better off you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be. That feeling of security means a whole lot. And he thinks maybe this is a boar. The sound that he's hearing thinks maybe it's a boar. And says that the boar here in Mongolia can weigh up to 400 pounds. And they will charge a human if they feel threatened. Um, Larry's actually going outside to see what the sound is. Y'all, I don't really think that's a good idea. Um, Going out there in the dark, not knowing what it is. Like I said, a 400-pound boar charges you, especially if there's more than one of them, out there in the dark. Don't really know if that's a great idea to go out there. I think I'd have just kind of set it out till morning, then went out and everything. But next morning, day 30, Larry's going out to check his trap. He has built a huge deadfall trap, y'all, and he says that he could catch an animal. In this deadfall trap, he feels like he could harvest an animal. Um, Weighs up to 100 pounds. I mean, it's like I said, big deadfall logs and stuff, got tripwire and everything on it. And he's using fish heads for bait, fish heads and entrails, the inside of fish for bait. So he goes to check it. He's hoping the sound he heard the night before was maybe got caught in his trap, but y'all, his trap was still set, nothing there, and Larry's talking about how disappointed he is because he knows how important calories are going to be the closer it gets to winter, and having no food source for the winter is really going to lessen your chances of being able to stay out there. And next, y'all, we go to Sam. First thing Sam's talking about, he's not getting enough protein, not getting any protein at all. He needs fish. Sam had actually built, I guess you call it like a funnel fish trap, and put it out. It said, I think, built it a couple weeks ago. Got this set out. Y'all, he's going to check it. Pulls it in, checking his fish trap. Sam kind of gets to laughing, when he looks in his fish trap. And he had baited this fish trap with a dead mouse. Well, y'all, there's leeches in the trap. I think he said there was 9 leeches, and they feeding on this mouse, this dead mouse blood. Now, leeches are actually edible raw, alive, but what you got to worry about if you eat those is they can attach to your throat or, anywhere in your tract where you're swallowing and actually feed off you. So I wouldn't consider that a good idea to eat those live, my opinion. I would not take that kind of chance if I was trying to stay out there long term. Well, y'all, then we cut and go back to Larry. Okay? Larry catches a mouse in his trap, a little deadfall trap, a little stone deadfall trap, and flattened mouse is what he's calling it. He's actually kind of in front of the camera doing selfies with this flattened mouse. I really like Larry, y'all. He's funny. He's something else. Give me a drink here. And so anyway, Larry says all he can think about, y'all, is food. You know. So, Larry's been having some trouble as he's catching fish, getting them in before they get off his line. So Larry decides he's going to make like a dip net, you know, a round net, hang down with a handle on the end of it where he can actually, as he's catching fish, he can actually dip them up. And so he's working on that, you know, braiding and braiding and braiding and tying, and wind's blowing, real windy, blowing the net around when he's trying to make a net and stuff. And Larry actually makes a statement that Mongolia is wearing on him. So Larry takes a little break, sits down. Like I said, the wind's blowing. Larry gets kind of upset about the weather, the wind blowing, being hot, being cool, wind blowing. Larry just kind of gets upset and loses his temper there. But you know, after he's sitting there a few minutes, wind kind of slows down. So Larry gets back up and starts working on his net. He gets his net all finished. You know, like I said, the wind slowed down where he could tie his, he actually took the center out of paracord, the fibers out of the paracord. The wind's actually dropped down where he can tie all this together. At the end, he's got his net big enough, and so he wants to go try this out. So he gets his fishing pole, he goes fishing, and actually catches a fish, lands it with his net, and y'all, it seemed like that's such a morale booster, you know, to Larry. You know, he's feeling better. You could tell he's really proud of the net he made, and you know, he keeps saying, "Not did I just do this?" He said, "This wouldn't be a big deal at home, but I did it out here," you know, and y'all, it's a lot different sitting around doing stuff at home than it is the way they're having to do under these conditions, y'all. And but you know, you can really tell it kind of tickles me that Larry gets really proud of what he's done. I mean, you know, pretty impressive. And y'all, next we cut back to Dave. Dave's sitting inside the shelter, warming by the fire, talking about having a fire inside the shelter and how he didn't know if he could make it, you know, if he didn't, and how that anybody that didn't have a fire inside their shelter was crazy. Which, y'all, I would have some kind of heating device. I'd have some kind of situation set up where I could heat the inside of my shelter for sure. I'm not sure, I don't want to reveal how I would do it, but I do have something in mind that I would do. I would definitely have heat inside my shelter, especially before wintertime gets here. And so, you know, like I said, he made that outlet on. He's been thinking about different ways to get animals for food. And so he decides he's going to go deer hunting, go hunting deer with his bow. And so Dave gets out there and actually about 20 foot up, he finds these two, I think they're birch trees, and cuts some smaller logs and ties across these trees and stuff, and makes him a makeshift deer stand. And about 20 foot up in there. And he says he knows he's spending calories doing this. He climbs up and down this tree a couple times, you know, getting everything up there and getting it tied off, and then climbs up there and gets ready to hunt. But he said the reason he's spending these calories is to try to secure food for the future, for a later date. All right. Well, next, y'all, day 31. Shows Britt, y'all. Britt, you know, earlier in this season, he was really catching a lot of fish and preserving fish and smoking them and stuff, and doing real good. Well, y'all, now the temperature is 39 degrees. Britt's fishing, but the fishing where Britt's at is slowed down. He's not doing so great fishing like he was. Just not having any luck. He's saying that the cold is definitely having an effect on the fish biting, and you know, that's one of the things we talked about, y'all, was you know, paying attention to the change in season and the wildlife around you, because as the seasons change, so does the wildlife, y'all. They change their feeding routines, they change their bedding areas, mating season. I mean, there's a lot of different things that have effect on what you're going to harvest and when, and you really have to pay attention to your surroundings out there to really grasp in on these things, especially if it's somewhere you haven't been and you don't know that much about the wildlife, you know, in that area. But all right, y'all, we go back to Randy. And for the same reason, Randy has not been catching a lot of fish, or he's not catching as much fish as he was. You know, earlier it showed that Randy caught about 9 fish and preserved 5 of them. Had 2 for breakfast, 2 for dinner that night. But he is also thinking of other ways that he can, and other resources that he can use for protein. And so Randy decides that he's going to start looking for a good hunting area, and he's talking about how his dad and his brother and he had put in for a elk hunt at home, and that his dad and his brother had gotten drawn, and were going to be out there on the hunt without him. So he's going to find a place here so he can be hunting when they're hunting, and he said he's going to try to hunt hard every day. I mean, you know, find an area to hunt and really hunt it every day and try to score some protein. But while Randy's out there, y'all, he stumbles up on a squirrel, and he says that the upper part of the skull looks more like a deer or something, you know, like a grass-eating animal. Actually, I caught a glimpse of the bottom jaw. I don't know that it wasn't maybe, it kind of resembled the bottom jaw of a boar to me. Maybe, I'm not sure. I just caught a glimpse of it, but could be a deer. But, you know, and when Randy finds this, he's talking about the wolves, y'all. And, you know, these wolves, we talked about running packs of up to 20. Well, y'all, each one of these wolves needs about 14 pounds of meat a day just to survive. I mean, that's their daily intake of meat is about 14 pounds. But y'all, they're out there really hunting, and, you know, if they, I mean, a pack of 20 of them, if they take animal down, there's not going to be much left. I mean, you know. But could be a kind of a clue to what's in that area. If it was a deer or a wild boar or whatever, you know they are in that area, but you would also kind of know that that is probably that pack of wolves hunting ground too. So it'd be kind of iffy call whether you wanted to kind of stake that area out and hunt it, or if you wanted to move on and find some other place. But y'all, we cut back to Britt. Britt is actually so hungry and trying to take in all the calories he can that he is actually taking the fish skin and drying it on the fire so he can pick the meat that was left off when he cleaned the fish. You know, and Britt says that he knows he's not getting enough food. He says the cold, says it's cold out there and it's unforgiving. Um, that he's afraid that if he gets to where he's catching any less fish, that he's actually worried about having enough food for the winter if he starts catching any less fish than he is already. And you know, y'all, way we was talking about drying that skin and taking that meat off. You know, y'all, I was taught that if you leave the skin on fish when you cook it, that you actually get more out of it because it holds more of the oils and the proteins of the fish inside when you cook it. Now that I'm not saying that Britt's wrong for doing this. That's just the way that I was taught. And like I said, y'all, anything I do or say is just my opinion. I'm not criticizing. I don't mean it that way. This is just my views, and what I would do the same way or differently is the reason I mainly do these, just to give my opinion on it. And but my opinion is, I mean, I would leave the skin on the fish when I cooked it. Like I said, to hold more of the natural fish oils and stuff inside to get more out of the fish, more nutrients and calories and everything I could get out of it. And y'all, we're up to day 32, and now we're showing Sam. Y'all, Sam's pretty much in the same place as Britt. Sam has actually, I think, not harvested one fish since he's been here. I think that he's probably harvested less food than anybody on the show so far. But it says that, my notes say that Sam knows he's not getting enough food. So he decides to look at other aspects, other techniques of how to catch fish. He hasn't been having a lot of luck just catching with a fishing line and, you know, line and hook, fishing pole, whatever. But Sam decides he's going to make a gill net. Well, I mean, Sam says it's a pretty good sized net, but my opinion only, y'all, I would have made a bigger net. And you know, Sam spends some time. He takes paracord, spends the time braiding this together. And, you know, y'all, that's a lot of it. Is how much time are you willing to put into harvesting something later on? I mean, you know, and the good thing about a gill net is, once you made this gill net, you can reuse it over and over and over, and it could be something that brings in food on a daily basis. I mean, you know, my opinion is especially in this situation at a river, you have a better chance with a net harvesting fish, and especially the numbers that you need to provide enough protein and calories to sustain yourself. But my opinion, like I said, I would have made a bigger net. And Sam actually takes rocks and ties on the bottom of his net to weight it down. Um, a slow, kind of a slow moving stream or something that will work probably. But this river is actually pretty swift, and it's moving. The current is moving so swiftly that it just flattens his net out on top of the water. It's just floating the net. Um, and I know Sam, he kind of gets frustrated when this doesn't work. Um, I mean, but my opinion only again, y'all, is I would have took and either made poles and took rocks and stacked up around them, or drove them down in the ground, down in the bed of the river, and strung my net between those poles, or even made like a wooden frame for your net to tie to, and you could set the whole wooden frame down in the river, and maybe then anchor it down with rocks. But my opinion, you don't get upset just because that one time doesn't work, y'all. You have to be flexible. I talk about all the time how you have to be able to think on your feet and be flexible, and plan A, B, C, D. I mean, just because something doesn't work the first time, you have to learn from those mistakes and figure out how to correct what you're making and what you're using and trying to harvest with, and make those corrections and adapt and overcome, I guess you call it. You have to be able to change your plan. I mean, from A to B to C to D and back and forth. I mean, and figure out what works in that area and that environment and that situation. And earlier we talked about Sam building the fish trap and caught some leeches in it. Well, y'all, Sam's hungry. He said he feels like he's starving to death. Um, Sam decides to cook and eat those leeches. Myself, y'all, with the leeches, I would have maybe um, put, one of them on a hook and line, or made a trout line or something like that, and used them for bait. Actually, a leech is a really good bait for certain kinds of fish. They have that blood, they've been feeding on the blood of that dead mouse. They have that blood in there. That's one of the reasons I would not, myself, just my opinion, I would not try to eat them. And one of the reasons is because I know they've been in there feeding on that dead mouse. I don't know how many days that's been in there. Like I said, they said he made this trap 2 weeks, 2 weeks prior. And, the mouse looked pretty rough itself, y'all, and then the leeches too. I just, like I said earlier, you can eat them raw, but you have to watch when you're swallowing them. They could attach to your throat. Myself, I wouldn't be willing to take that chance if I was trying to do this long term. Um, I wouldn't take that chance. And I did not know this myself, but I learned something from this episode. Uh, Sam actually takes these leeches and boils them. Okay. He said he was going to boil them for about 5 minutes or so, and then he was going to put them on a skewer and roast them on the fire on a piece of wire. And I did not know this, but the slime on the outside of the leech can actually cause a gag reflex and make you vomit. And like I said, my opinion, if you're not sure about something, y'all, don't eat it. Whether it's a plant, an animal, an insect, don't matter what it is. If you're not sure, don't do it. I mean, don't eat it. And y'all, I like doing these videos because of the comments I get back. I carry on some pretty in-depth conversations with some people about the show of Alone, and I value everybody's opinion. And y'all, like I said, there's a whole lot of aspects to think about, a whole lot of different scenarios to think about when you're talking about being on this show. So don't judge too harshly, y'all. I mean, these people out there trying their best to do something, and I stand behind them, support them, and respect them 100%. And I think we all should. If you have this kind of interest and you're in this kind of community, and you love doing this kind of stuff, then you have to support other people that do it too. And you know, until you've done it, you can't say how easy it is, y'all. And You know, I make that mistake sometimes judging some shows I watch on TV and stuff, but you know, I try not to judge anybody unless I've done the same thing myself. When I do these videos, it's just my opinion, the way I would kind of approach it, and the things that I learn, you know, in different situations. And I just want to share them with you, and I hope you enjoy them. And I really enjoy the comments I get back. There are quite a few people that comment on these videos that I'm doing on this series of this season of Alone, and I'm going to keep doing them, and we'll just keep watching together, y'all. I just want to tell you I appreciate you. I love each and every one of you, and if you would, please like and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see y'all next time.